Hey there, Sart here, back from my vacation. Very relaxing, very refreshing, much needed little getaway from everything. But I'm back. We've got the new user interface. I'm not going to really talk much about that in this video. I'll do another video later on today discussing a little bit more about that. But I want to go ahead and get to this Arid Assault EXT battle. This one's pretty simple. A lot of you have probably already finished this one. I obviously, just getting back from my vacation. I'm just sort of catching up on a lot of these things. But let's go ahead and I'm going to do my budget clear of this one. This one's pretty easy to do with a budget or fairly budget team. So it is a machine, so of course Esther's going to love it. Weak to lightning, water, and dark. Uses attacks that inflict some status ailments, so it's good to make sure that your team is covered on ailment immunity, or bring somebody that can buff ailment immunity, just to make sure you don't get anybody. Confusion is really the only one that you need to worry about. Blind is of course important if you're using physical damage units, so you don't want your physical DPS getting blinded, because then they might miss. It says it recovers HP every set number of turns, but we're going to finish this in 3 turns, so I've never actually seen it recover its HP, so I don't think we have to worry about that. And it says it uses attacks that lower fire resistance. Again, I never saw that. We're going to do this in 3 turns. The 3000 lapis is for doing it in 5 turns or less. Like I said, doing this in 3 turns is very, very simple. It's actually fairly squishy compared to some of the other EXT challenge battles that we've had. So this is kind of a welcome squishy battle. Party of 4 or less for that Master's Crown. That's really easy to achieve. And so here's the team that I'm using. 4 units. It does a lot of AoE magic damage, and so I've brought Biggs and Wedge there as the magic tank. He tanks this beautifully, even with not much bulk, because he has a lot of machine types mitigation in his kit, and so he'll basically take almost 0 damage here. Cacteria is going to be big on the brakes. I meant to go ahead and shift her over. Cacteria, extremely helpful on the brakes. You can have her deal a little bit of damage if you want her to, because she can do water damage, and this is weak to water, so she is useful for that. But she's really just here for the brakes, because this boss has no stat passives, so the bigger the brakes, the more damage you're going to do. Of course, Esther, and then Titus there, the Neovision Awakened Titus, is going to be coming in with a nice finisher on turn 3, just to help finish it off. So let's look at the gear. Yeah, so we've got Biggs and Wedge here. I basically just loaded them up on some spirit gear. They honestly don't need all, even though they're not that bulky compared to like Neovision standards, this is more than enough. They will never come anywhere close to dying. The most important thing is just to make sure that they're status immune. So make sure you give them something for status immunity. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, just some very basic spirit gear to give them a little bit of bulk. But as you can see, they're going to take very little damage. Esther, of course, you can go pretty cheap on the build here if you're bringing, if you're bringing a second DPS like Titus along. So yeah, pretty cheap gear here, nothing really fancy. Again, I love Chocobos is there for the status resistance. Yeah, really that's not as important on Esther, because I think she's inherently immune to all the ones that we need to worry about, except for poison. And so really that's just there to cover the poison immunity. She should be pretty much loaded. Yep, 300% machine and 300% LB damage. So she is ready to go. Cacteria, we're only worrying about her Brave Shift form here. You can theoretically do this just with an EX+0 Cacteria if you needed to. So if your Cacteria is only EX+0, you can actually do this with an EX+0 Cacteria, just using solely her power breaking needles, magic breaking needles, and the armor breaking needles. She really doesn't do any kind of damage. Now, she doesn't have any damage skills in her EX0 form, in her normal form, but that's okay. Her damage is inconsequential to this fight if you have the other DPS units. So don't stress about it. If you don't have an EX1 or better Cacteria, EX0 will work just fine here. But yeah, otherwise, she's not really doing anything. I mean, this is just like her gear that I've given her in her favorite slot. Yeah, nothing really needed there. All right. For Titus, so hopefully you were able to get the recipe to fully upgrade his sword, because you know that just gives. I mean, it just makes the sword a little bit better, right? So it's got a higher attack stat at 220 instead of 190 that it was at +3. And then just some gear. Hopefully you've got Yuna's necklace, because we all got a free Yuna from the FF10 event. And then just some gear to get his machine killers up to 300%. Determined to defeat the Empire is another status immunity gear. That is Thoughtful Sister Maria's STMR. If you don't have it, use something like, you know, Discernment, or, you know, anything that can just give him status immunity. And then, yeah, just a cheap card here. Nothing too fancy. Like I said, we're doing this pretty budget. All right, let's get in there and see how we do this in 3 turns. All right, so turn 1 is just a setup turn. We will have Biggs and Wedge just do his 2 cooldown skills. That'll set up his cover, as well as the mitigations. All right, Cacteria will go ahead and do her big attack and mag breaks with Million Needle Assault, Deadly Drought for the Water Imperil, and then Armor Breaking Needles for the higher defense break. Esther can just do True Stormbrand, Energizing Bunny, and then she's going to give Quantum Storm to Cacteria to chain on turn 3. All right. Titus, all he needs to do, honestly, he doesn't really need to do anything, but we'll do Ace's ability on this, just for the water amp. All right, we'll do a little chain damage next turn, but not much. So you see there, look, I mean, Biggs and Wedge take practically 0 damage, and he's not all that bulky. Now, having Cacteria's 90% attack and mag breaks does help reduce that damage greatly, but even without that, you know, if you had a weaker breaker, you know, you'd be fine. Biggs and Wedge, especially because on this turn they're just going to guard, so they take even less next turn. All right, Esther's going to do Calm Before the Storm and Double Bolting Slice. Titus will do Triple Quick Hit just to chain it up. Cacteria can do Triple Oasis Retribution. All right, like I said, if your Cacteria is only EX0, then you can just have her guard on this turn, or, you know, do some other support skills. She honestly doesn't need, her damage is inconsequential here. She's just here to do some chaining. All right, so let's just chain it up. This ought to do about 20%. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so now we're gonna kill this thing. All right, so Esther's gonna LB. Cacteria will chain lightning to chain it up with Esther, and Titus will do his super limit burst. All right, so Titus's SLB. If you've seen any of my other videos where I use Titus, then you know he's got a bit of a wind up. So he goes first, wait a second or two, and then send Cacteria and Esther. All right. Boom. All right, and that's how we kill the Angra Mainyu. Okay, easy peasy. Yeah, like I said, you guys, most of you have probably finished this one already. This was not a particularly difficult fight, but if you are struggling with it, here's an example of a budget clear for you. So Esther, of course, carrying that one, but Titus did chip in with that extra bit of damage to finish it off on turn 3. If you don't have, star player Titus, you can, you probably could go all the way to turn 5 and just using Esther as your solo DPS, and she would probably get it done by turn 5. But you know, most people probably have Star Player Titus, especially since we got a free one anyways. So you might as well bring him along and let him just make it a little bit faster for you. All right, so there's an all missions clear. That's how we got it done. And I love all the extra results screens here. Okay, very good. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope that was helpful. I'm gonna be working on a few other things this week and hopefully get some more content out to you guys this week now that I'm back from my vacation. And so I will see you on the other side.